The whisper of fear. The galaxy was wide, filled with countless stars and unnumbered worlds, yet a single name had begun to travel from one system to another with the speed of fire carried by wind. That name was humanity. For centuries, most alien civilizations thought of Earth as only a minor planet, a place rough and unstable, with storms, volcanoes, and oceans that swallowed ships whole. It was not seen as a jewel, but as a dangerous stone resting at the edge of known space. But with time came whispers, and those whispers soon became fear. Merchants spoke first. Traders who had visited human colonies returned with uneasy stories. They said humans survived in climates that would kill others. They described men and women who could work without sleep for days, who healed from wounds at shocking speed, who looked at the galaxy with eyes that did not know surrender. The merchants had no reason to lie, but even if they did, their tales spread like shadows along the corridors of alien markets. Every time they spoke, someone listened, and every listener carried the story further. In the high halls of alien councils, the rumors reached commanders and rulers. At first, many dismissed them. How could a young species, one that had not even stepped into the galaxy until recent centuries, be a threat to empires thousands of years old? But unease has a way of planting roots. Reports from scouts confirmed strange things. Human soldiers carried weapons with steady hands in storms that would blind others. Colonies rebuilt themselves after disasters that would have erased any other race. It was not the technology that was most feared, but the spirit. A spirit that seemed born from endless struggle. Third-person eyes followed the councils as they debated. In one chamber of glass that floated over a dying sun, alien leaders spoke of humans with hushed voices. A commander from the Vereen Empire tapped his claws against the table. "They are too wild," he warned. "If they ever send their armies into our space, they will not stop." Across from him, a pale minister of the Zarek coalition replied, "Then we must make them allies before they make us prey." The chamber fell silent, for no one truly believed humans could ever be allies. Allies were bound by trust. Humans were bound by survival. The narrator's voice described the tension of the galaxy. Ships traveled. Messages crossed light years. Yet in every corner of space there was a question whispered more often with every cycle. What will happen when Earth shows its warriors? The word warrior itself carried weight. Aliens had soldiers trained for order and duty. But a warrior was different. A warrior was something older, something primal, something that carried the memory of blades and blood. And the galaxy feared that Earth had not soldiers, but warriors in numbers greater than anyone knew. On a remote mining moon, a group of workers huddled together after a shift. They spoke of a single human mercenary who had protected a caravan from raiders. They said he fought 10 enemies alone and returned with scars across his face, but with steady steps, as if pain itself had bent to his will. On another planet, young students looked at forbidden broadcasts of human boxing and martial contests. They watched with wide eyes as men and women struck each other down, stood up, and struck again. To the students, it was horror. To the galaxy, it was warning. The whisper of fear became a hum. Entire fleets trained not for conquest, but for the day they might face Earth. Rulers began to demand reports of human colonies, their numbers, their weapons. Some argued that the galaxy should destroy Earth before it grew stronger. Others said it was already too late, that Earth was a storm too powerful to contain. All agreed on one thing. Humanity was different. Third-person narration moved to the edge of space, where an alien scout vessel floated in the silence between stars. Its crew had been tasked with observing Earth's newest warship, a massive shadow of steel and fire. The aliens watched through screens, whispering in their own tongues, their voices filled with dread. The warship did not rush. It did not fire. It simply waited, silent, as if aware it was being watched, as if daring anyone to come closer. Inside the halls of power, fear grew sharper. A council on the world of Etherian gathered to speak of the human threat. They had data, they had images, but still they did not understand. One elder leaned forward and said, "If this is how they act when no one threatens them, how will they act when challenged?" No answer came. The silence was heavier than any words. In dark alleys, smugglers told tales of entire raiding bands destroyed by a single human patrol. In the skies of merchant stations, travelers spoke of Earth's strange ability to adapt, to learn faster than anyone else. It was as if humans were born to face challenge, and every challenge only made them stronger. This was not a rumor anymore. It was a shadow stretching across the stars. And so the galaxy trembled. They trembled not because of what humanity had done, but because of what they had not yet shown. The question was no longer if humans were dangerous. The question was how dangerous they would become when their deadliest warriors finally stepped into the light. As the chapter closed, the scene shifted to a quiet human command room. There, behind steel walls and glowing maps, Earth's leaders spoke in low voices. They knew the galaxy feared them, and they did not argue against it. One commander looked at the hologram of distant alien fleets and said only one sentence. "They have seen our ships, but they have not yet seen our warriors." The whisper of fear was about to become a storm. The first encounter. The galaxy had waited in silence, but silence always breaks. The day came when alien eyes no longer looked at rumors or broken reports. They looked at flesh and steel, at humanity itself, standing before them. At the far edge of known space, near the scarred world of Syndralis, a fleet gathered. It was a grand display of power. Dozens of alien empires had sent ships, sleek vessels glowing with strange energy, war cruisers heavy with weapons, carriers filled with legions of troops. To them, this was unity, a sign that the galaxy could stand together against the threat of Earth. But beneath the proud banners and shining hulls, there was unease. The commanders remembered the whispers. They remembered the fear. They waited for a sign, and the sign came. Out of the dark sea of stars moved a single human warship. It was not the largest vessel ever built, nor the most beautiful. Its design was sharp, its surface dark, its weapons hidden behind layers of steel. Yet it carried a presence that shook the airwaves of the enemy fleet. It moved slow, steady, like a predator that did not need to rush. The galaxy had prepared to see wild chaos. What they saw instead was calm. Inside the human ship, warriors stood in silence. The narrator followed them as they prepared. No one shouted. No one showed fear. They checked their weapons, adjusted their armor, and waited for the word of their commander. These were not men and women who came to test themselves. They were professionals, trained by centuries of conflict, hardened by a world that gave mercy to no one. Their faces were calm, their movements sharp, as if this moment had been expected all along. Across the alien fleet, commanders whispered. "Why do they not attack?" one asked. Another replied, "They are waiting." But waiting for what? In the command hall of the Vereen flagship, the admiral clicked his claws nervously. "This is not how savages behave. This is order. This is discipline. Do you not see? They are not reckless. They are worse." The standoff grew heavy. Minutes passed like hours. Thousands of alien weapons were locked on the lone human warship, but not one shot was fired. To fire first would be to invite doom. The galaxy trembled because they realized humans did not fear the number of ships before them. They acted as if those thousands were nothing more than a storm to walk through. Finally, a voice broke the silence. It came from the human commander, a man with gray at his temples and steel in his tone. He gave no speech, no warning. He said only 4 words. "Release the first unit." The order carried through the ship. Hatches opened, shadows moved. From the warship launched a smaller vessel, a transport carrying Earth's elite warriors. The aliens watched the small craft move toward them, and confusion filled the airwaves. What are they doing? Why send so few? But the human commander had already turned away from the screen. He knew what was about to happen. Inside the transport, the warriors stood ready. Their armor was black, their helmets marked only by cold visors. Each one carried weapons that looked simple, but carried the weight of centuries of refinement. The leader of the squad spoke softly, words meant only for his soldiers. "Remember Earth, remember why we fight." And with that, the hatch opened and the galaxy saw them step into history. The aliens were not prepared for what they saw. The warriors did not stumble in fear. They moved as one, precise and silent, their boots striking the ground in perfect rhythm. They did not pause to study the enemy. They already knew. They acted as if the battlefield belonged to them before the first shot was fired. The first clash came on the ground of Syndralis itself. Alien troops had landed there earlier, turning the surface into a fortress of metal and fire. They were proud, confident in their numbers and their walls, but when the human warriors came, they saw something they had never seen before. The humans did not hesitate. They moved with a deadly calm, striking weak points, cutting through defenses with skill that looked less like war and more like art. Third-person narration captured the horror spreading across alien lines. A soldier from the Jarathi race fired again and again at a human warrior, but the warrior kept moving, closing the distance until the alien's weapon was useless. Another group tried to outflank the humans, only to find the squad had already predicted the move. Everywhere the aliens turned, they found themselves already defeated. In the orbit above, alien commanders watched the battle through trembling screens. They saw their soldiers fall, their defenses crumble, and their pride burn. One whispered, "This cannot be real. They are too few. They should be crushed." But another voice, colder and wiser, replied, "Numbers mean nothing to a species born on a world that kills the weak before they can even walk." The fear spread. Ships that had once stood ready to fire began to drift back. Commanders shouted for courage, but the truth was already written in every alien heart. Humanity had shown not its armies, not its fleets, but a single unit of its deadliest warriors. And that was enough to shatter the courage of an entire gathering of galactic powers. The part closed as the human warriors stood on the smoking ground of Syndralis. Around them lay the broken remains of alien defenses, the silence of defeat heavy in the air. Their leader raised his visor, his face calm, his eyes steady. He spoke not to his squad, not to his enemies, but to the galaxy itself. Now, he said, "They have seen us." And with those words, the galaxy realized that the whispers were only the beginning, the breaking point. The battle on Syndralis did not end with silence. It began to echo. Across the galaxy, signals carried images of human warriors moving through fire and steel as if they were walking through rain. No empire could hide the truth anymore. The whispers had become proof, and that proof broke the balance of power. In the command halls of alien fleets, leaders struggled to explain what they had seen. The Zarek Council replayed footage again and again, searching for flaws. They slowed it down to see if the humans had used tricks, hidden technology, or unknown weapons. But every frame showed the same truth. The humans had not relied on machines. They had relied on themselves. Their speed, their unity, their brutal precision, these things no machine could give. It was not invention. It was instinct carved into them by centuries of survival. Third-person narration followed the galaxy's reaction. On one world, students who had once laughed at human myths now sat in silence as their teachers told them the truth. On another, merchants locked their doors, whispering that trade with Earth might soon mean war. And on the far side of the stars, soldiers sharpened their blades with trembling hands, not to prepare for glory, but because fear demanded it. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy's greatest empires felt the shadow of collapse. They had ruled for thousands of years, fighting each other, conquering weaker races, bending worlds to their will. Yet against humans, even victory seemed empty. A single unit had broken an army. What would a full legion do? What would an entire planet unleash? The narration shifted back to the battlefield. Alien survivors tried to regroup. Smoke hung over the surface of Syndralis, ash falling like black snow. A wounded commander of the Vereen crawled from the ruins, his claws bleeding, his eyes filled with shock. He had faced countless wars and had never known fear. Now his voice broke as he whispered, "They do not fight for conquest. They fight because it is who they are." Above in orbit, panic grew. The united alien fleet began to fracture. Some ships moved back, some turned their weapons on each other, blaming rivals for failure. Orders shouted across comms dissolved into confusion. The humans had not destroyed the fleet, but they had broken something far greater, the belief that numbers could protect them. Inside the human warship, the commander watched the screens without emotion. His warriors returned one by one, calm even as their armor was scorched with battle marks. They did not cheer. They did not boast. They stood in silence, waiting for the next order. To them, this was not victory. It was only duty. That calm was more terrifying than rage. Rage could burn out. Calm never ended. Third-person eyes turned to a council deep in space. Alien rulers met in secret, desperate to understand what had happened. Some demanded more fleets. Others spoke of striking Earth before it was too late. But one elder, older than most of their civilizations, shook his head. His voice was weak but steady. "You do not understand. We have already lost. They are not soldiers like ours. They are the children of a world that eats the weak. We fight with armies. They fight with history itself." His words spread through the chamber like poison, and no one could answer. The breaking point came not with the destruction of a fleet, but with silence. Entire empires stopped their expansion, too afraid to move toward human space. Patrols vanished. Scout ships refused to cross the borders of Earth. In the streets of alien cities, common people began to speak openly. Perhaps we should leave them alone. Perhaps we should not provoke them. When civilians began to whisper fear, leaders could not hide it anymore. Yet fear has its own danger. Some races began to turn desperate. If humanity was truly this powerful, then waiting meant only death. Better to strike now while they were still outnumbered. And so secret plans began, dark strategies forged in hidden halls. If Earth could not be crushed in open war, then perhaps it could be weakened from within. Spies, sabotage, assassins, all were whispered into motion. The galaxy trembled, not because of what humanity had done, but because of what their enemies would now attempt in fear. Back on Earth, the commander received new orders. His unit would not return home yet. The galaxy had seen them, and the galaxy was breaking. Now the task was simple. Hold the line, show no weakness, remind every star that humanity was not to be tested. He stood before his warriors, his eyes hard. They will come again. They will come in greater numbers. And when they do, we will show them again why the galaxy trembles. The narrator ended the part with a chilling image. Across countless stars, alien leaders sat in silence, their hands shaking as they signed new orders, their eyes haunted by the sight of calm human warriors walking through smoke. No empire fell that day, no city burned, but the galaxy itself had reached a breaking point. The fear was no longer a whisper. It was a roar that echoed from one end of the stars to the other. And deep within that roar, one truth burned clear. The galaxy had seen the first glimpse of Earth's deadliest, and it would never be the same again. The truth about Earth: the galaxy thought it understood humanity after Syndralis. They had seen human warriors in battle, seen the calm precision with which they destroyed armies, and believed they finally grasped the danger. But the truth of Earth had not yet been revealed. What the galaxy feared was only the shadow of the real terror. Scouts were sent in secret. Tiny ships cloaked themselves and slipped near human space. Their commanders were ordered not to fight, not to reveal themselves, but only to watch. They were told to find out what made humans what they were. Some scouts returned. Some never did. Those who returned brought stories that made the galaxy's rulers sit in silence, staring at the reports with disbelief. Third-person narration followed one such scout, an officer from the Kraith Dominion. His vessel hid near the orbit of Earth itself. Through high lenses, he saw the planet, green and blue, with storms swirling across oceans, mountains cutting through clouds, deserts stretching like endless scars. He reported the strange balance of beauty and death. In one region, he saw forests so thick that light could not pierce them, filled with predators with eyes that glowed in the night. In another, he watched storms roll across plains, lightning striking the ground again and again. To him it was not a world, it was a weapon. He recorded his words carefully. On our homeworld, a storm is disaster. On Earth, storms are normal. On our colonies, predators are rare. On Earth, predators are everywhere. The humans do not live in peace with their world. They live against it, every day, every hour. No wonder they are what they are. They were shaped by a planet that kills the weak before they even rise from the ground. Reports grew darker. Scouts saw humans training in deserts under burning suns, climbing frozen cliffs with bare hands, running for hours through forests without stopping. They saw children fighting in games that seemed violent even by galactic standards. Children learning to strike, to fall, to rise again. What other species taught their young pain before they reached maturity? Only humans. And yet those children laughed as they trained. They smiled in struggle. The narration revealed how alien councils reacted. The halls of power grew heavy with silence as images of Earth spread among rulers. They had feared human soldiers. Now they feared the very soil of Earth itself. For every human born carried in their blood the lessons of that brutal world. Even those who had never fought a war had inherited the strength of generations who had. The galaxy had soldiers, yes, but Earth produced warriors as naturally as other planets produced trees. One council debated for hours in desperation. "We cannot fight a world," said one minister. "If Earth itself forges them into weapons, then every human is a soldier in waiting." Another replied, "Then we must destroy the world, not the people. Burn the soil, break the planet, leave nothing alive." But even as he said it, his voice shook. For to destroy a world that strong would mean losses too great for any empire to survive. Among common people, the fear became myth. In markets, stories grew wilder. They said Earth's oceans held monsters greater than fleets. They said humans wrestled storms with bare hands. They said even death itself could not defeat them, for they always rose again. These were exaggerations, but they spread faster than truth. And in fear, myths have more power than facts. The breaking moment came when a group of alien scientists revealed their study. They compared human biology to that of other races. They showed how humans healed faster, endured more, adapted quicker. They explained that Earth's constant challenges had carved into human blood a resilience no other race possessed. When the presentation ended, the chamber was silent. Then one scientist said softly, "It is not their weapons that make them deadly. It is their nature." Back on Earth, the commanders of humanity knew these spies were watching. They did not hide. They wanted the galaxy to see. They wanted the truth to spread, for fear itself was a weapon. The human commander who had led the warriors of Syndralis stood before his men once more. He spoke in a voice as steady as stone. "Let them look. Let them see what Earth is. Every storm, every predator, every war they will see and they will tremble. For we are children of this world and we carry its fury wherever we go." Third-person narration followed the ripple of those words. Across the stars, alien leaders woke in the night with visions of Earth storms tearing through their fleets. Soldiers dreamed of human warriors walking through fire with calm eyes. Even the strongest empires, who had once thought themselves unshakable, began to wonder if they had already lost the war without a single battle. The truth about Earth was not that it produced great warriors. The truth was that it produced nothing else. And in that truth, the galaxy saw the shadow of its future, a future ruled not by those who conquered, but by those who could never be conquered. As the part ended, the camera of narration lingered on Earth itself. The world turned slowly in the black sea of space, storms flashing across its surface, oceans rolling with endless fury. It looked peaceful from a distance, beautiful even, but every alien who saw it now knew the truth. That beauty was a mask. Beneath it was a forge that had created the deadliest species the galaxy would ever know. And somewhere in the silence of that turning world, the warriors of Earth prepared to march again. The day the galaxy bowed, the galaxy had trembled when it first heard the whispers of humanity. It had faltered when it saw Earth's warriors crush armies on Syndralis. It had broken when the truth of Earth itself was revealed. But the day came when fear turned to surrender, when the galaxy bowed not with words but with silence. The empires gathered their strength one last time. The fleets were vast, greater than anything seen before. Millions of ships filled the black of space, their engines burning like stars. The galaxy believed numbers could still save them. If humanity was forged by storms, then they would bring a storm greater than Earth itself. If humans were strong, then sheer force would crush them. It was not pride anymore. It was desperation. The human warship stood at the center of the coming storm. It was smaller, darker, less decorated than the alien vessels. Yet every alien who looked upon it felt unease, as if it was not a ship but the eye of the storm itself. Inside, Earth's warriors prepared once more. They did not sing of victory. They did not pray for survival. They simply checked their weapons, nodded to one another, and waited for the signal. Third-person narration lingered on the alien fleets as they closed in. Commanders shouted orders, their voices filled with a courage they did not truly feel. Soldiers clenched their weapons, forcing themselves to believe this time would be different. But in their eyes lay the shadow of Syndralis, the memory of calm human warriors walking through fire. The clash began. The first waves of alien ships unleashed their weapons. Beams of energy and storms of missiles lit the darkness of space. The void itself seemed to burn as the galaxy threw its power at one world. And yet when the fire cleared, the human ship was still there, steady, silent, untouched. Then the humans answered. They did not unleash wild destruction. They struck with precision, every blast cutting exactly where it needed. Entire fleets crumbled as key ships fell, their formations collapsing like broken chains. Alien commanders cried out in disbelief. This was not random slaughter. This was discipline sharper than any blade. The galaxy had come with fire. Humanity had come with order. On the ground below, the last fortress of the Allied empires waited. Its walls were mountains of steel, its skies filled with defenses, its armies stretching beyond sight. They had told themselves no force could break it. But when Earth's elite descended, the fortress shook. The warriors moved through fire as if it were mist. Every defense fell. Every wall cracked. Alien soldiers fought with desperation, but desperation is not enough. Humanity did not come with rage. They came with certainty. Step by step, they cut through the heart of the fortress, their calm more terrifying than fury. Third-person narration showed the final stand. An alien general, scarred by centuries of war, faced the human commander. His voice shook, but he forced himself to speak. "Why do you fight this way? Why do you not stop? What do you want?" The human commander looked at him with cold eyes. His words were simple, heavy as stone. "We want nothing from you. We want nothing from your empires. We fight because we are human, and that is enough." The general dropped his weapon not from cowardice, but because he finally understood. You cannot defeat those who fight not for conquest, not for riches, not even for survival, but because struggle itself is their nature. Against such a race, resistance is not war. It is futility. The fortress fell. The fleets broke. Across the galaxy, silence spread. No more councils called for war. No more soldiers marched to Earth's borders. Every empire understood the same truth. They could live, but only if they accepted what humanity was. The narrator painted the closing image. Across countless worlds, people looked up at the stars with new fear. They no longer spoke of destroying Earth. They no longer dreamed of ruling humans. Instead, they whispered of respect, the kind born from terror. The galaxy had bowed without kneeling, without treaty, without surrender. It bowed because it had no choice. On Earth, the warriors returned to their world. They did not march in celebration. They did not raise banners. They walked into the silence of their planet, carrying the weight of storms, predators, and endless struggle. For them, nothing had changed. For the galaxy, everything had. The final words fell like a shadow across the stars. The galaxy once trembled at the name of humanity. Now it trembled at the sight of their warriors. And in that trembling silence, the galaxy bowed.